to suspect even me of cannibal inclination. However, at last I made her promise to come with me on the morrow, presuming that Master Odam could by any means be persuaded to keep her company in the cart, as propriety demanded. Having little doubt that Master Odam was entirely at his wife's command, I looked upon that matter as settled, and set off for Watchett to see the grave of Lorna's poor mother, and to hire a cart for the morrow. And hence, as so often happens with men, I succeeded without any trouble or hindrance, where I had looked for both of them, namely, in finding a suitable cart; whereas the other matter, in which I could have expected no difficulty, came very near to defeat me. For when I heard that Lorna's father was the Earl of Dougal, as Benita impressed upon me with a strong enforcement, as much as to say, "Who are you, young man, to come even asking about her?" then I never thought but that everybody in Watchett town must know all about the tombstones of the Countess of Dougal. However, proved otherwise; for Lord Dougal had never lived at Watchett Grange, as their place was called; neither had his name become familiar as its owner, because the Grange had only devolved to him by will, at the end of a long entail, when the last of the Fitzpaines died out; and though he liked the idea of it, he had gone abroad without taking seisin; and upon news of his death, John Jones, a rich gentleman from Llandaff, had taken possession, as next of right, and hushed up all the story. And though even at the worst of times a lady of high rank and wealth could not be robbed, and as bad as murdered, and then buried in a little place without moving some excitement, yet had been given out, on purpose and with diligence, that this was only a foreign lady travelling for her health and pleasure, along the sea coast of England. And as the poor thing never spoke, and several of her servants and her baggage looked so foreign, and she herself died in a collar of lace unlike any made in England, all Watchett, without hesitation, pronounced her to be a foreigner. And an English serving man and maid, who might have cleared up everything, either was bribed by Master Jones, or else decamped of their own accord with the relics of the baggage. So the poor Countess of Dougal, almost in sight of her own grand house, was buried in an unknown grave, with her pair of infants, without a plate, without a tombstone, worse than all, without a tear, except from the hired Italian woman. Surely my poor Lorna came of an ill-starred family. Now, in spite of all this, if I had only taken Benita with me, or even told her what I wished, and craved her directions, there could have been no trouble. But I do assure you that among the stupid people at Watchett, compared with whom our folk of Oare, exceedingly dense though being, are as hamlets against Dogberry, what with one of them and another, and a firm conviction of all the town that I could become only to wrestle, I do assure you, as I said before, that my wits almost went out of me. And what vexed me yet more about it, was that I saw my own mistake, in coming myself to seek out the matter, instead of sending some unknown person. For my face and form were known at that time, and still are so, to 9 people out of every 10 living in 40 miles of me. Not through any excellence, or anything of good desert, in either the one or the other, but simply because folks will be fools on the rivalry of wrestling. The art is a fine one in itself, and demands a little wit of brain, as well as strength of body. It binds the man who studies it to temperance, and chastity, to self-respect, and most of all to an even and sweet temper. For I have thrown stronger men than myself, when I was a mere sapling, and before my strength grew hard on me, through their loss of temper. But though the art is an honest one, surely they who excel therein have a right, like all the rest of mankind, to their own private life. Be that way either, and I will not speak too strongly, for fear of indulging my own annoyance. Anyhow, all Witchet town cared 10 times as much to see John Ridd as to show him what he wanted. I was led to every public house, instead of to the churchyard, and 20 tables were ready for me, in lieu of a single gravestone. Zumazet thou beest, John Ridd, and Zumazet that shall be. They call thee Zell a Devonshire man, who that lives in Zumazet, and in Zumazet thee wast born, lad. And so it went on, till I was weary, though very much obliged to them. Dull and solid as I am, and with a wild duck waiting for me at good Mistress O'Dam's, I saw that there was nothing for it but to yield to these good people, and prove me a man of Somerset by eating a dinner at their expense. As for the churchyard, none would hear of it, and I grieved for broaching the matter. But how was I to meet Lorna again, without having done the thing of all things which I had promised to see to? It would never do to tell her that so great was my popularity, and so strong the desire to feed me, that I could not attend to her mother. Least of all could I say that every one in Watchet knew John Ridd, while none had heard of the Countess of Dugal. And yet that was about the truth, as I hinted very delicately to Mistress O'Dam that evening. But she, being vexed about her wild duck, and not having English ideas on the matter of sport, and so on, made a poor unwitting face at me. Nevertheless, Master O'Dam restored me to my self-respect, for he stared at me till I went to bed, and he broke his nose with excitement. For being in the leg line myself, I wanted to know what the muscles were of a man who turned a wheel all day. I had never seen a treadmill, though they have one now in Exeter, and it touched me much to learn whether it was good exercise. And herein, from what I saw of O'Dam, I incline to think that it does great harm, as moving the muscles too much in a line, and without variety. End of chapter 56. Recording by Daisy 55.